IVM.
Hey everybody, quick request once again, if you could help us out by filling out our survey. It's at ivmpodcast.com/survey. This really helps us talk to advertisers about the kinds of people listening to these shows. Really do appreciate your help, and we're going to be doing a random drawing, and we'll be sending out some IVM swag. Hope you enjoy that.
Hello and welcome to Simblified, the podcast that slays the vampire of ignorance by driving the stake of pure knowledge studded with the shards of awful puns through the heart of that ignorance and leaves you sounding wiser, smarter, and less likely to fall prey to misinformation. Wow. So after that little bit of misinformation, let's move on to
a strong start, Naren. Happy New Year.
Yeah. So,
but you told me that you found a new voice in the new year. I didn't expect it to be this strong.
I managed to lose my voice completely, like the Indian public, you might say. And unlike the Indian public, I got it back. I the moment of blind panic, I thought I'd got COVID, but luckily that was not the case. It's just my voice that had gone. And I'm back.
Stronger than ever.
Oh, voice, yes. But yeah, the voice is better, but the content is not.
So Naren, what are we talking about today? I was very surprised that you were interested in football, and we are talking about the Korean player who's been setting alight the Premier League, Son. No, that's not what we're talking about.
That's not quite it, but it's almost as bright as Young-Min Son, who is a big favorite of my son. He is a big fan of us. Tottenham Hotspurs. He will completely kill me if I say out. Yeah. So he forces me to watch. I watch all the goals and everything like that, and he's always sort of in some kind of rapture when the Korean Son is playing. But this one is actually a slightly hotter. It is it reached 100 million degrees for 20 seconds, and it was all in the news a few weeks ago in the middle of December.
Wow. Yeah.
And actually, if you think about it, it's a huge deal, right? So we're just going to look at what all this really is in today's podcast. And so the first thing is, what is fusion and how hot is 100 million? What is 100 million degrees? And can you sort of, is it hotter than your stove top? Yeah, it is hotter than your stove top. And many more important questions, come out of this. So I really didn't know any of it. So I had to sort of ferret around. And first question is what is the Korean artificial sun? And its full Christian name, as Chuck would have said, is the K-Star Fusion Reactor. And its even fuller Christian name is the Korean Superconducting Tokamak Advanced Research Reactor. That's what it stands for.
That's better, because otherwise this K-Star exists in Chembur also, no?
Yeah, K-Star totally.
2021 definitely doesn't look like any better than 2020. With apologies, please continue, Naren.
So, why is it a big deal and why is it in the news? Is it sustained a fusion reaction for 20 seconds. That is significantly longer than the attention span of my kids, and I dare say yours too. That is surprising. And it's really long in the fusion industry, right? And number two is it achieved a temperature of 100 million degrees, which is way hotter than the sun, even the sun. So sun is about 15 million degrees right in the center. And this thing is like, several times hotter.
Okay. And so this is an outcome of the thing that they were trying to do, or the conditions required to actually make?
No, this is an outcome of what they're doing. So what they do, as far as I can gather, is they make, they first create a plasma. So a plasma is created. If you see electrical welders, the spark that he creates, and that is a plasma actually. So that's really hot, and the electrical arc that flies through the air, that really reaches a very high temperature. It's not 10,000 degrees, it's something like 7 or 8,000 degrees, not 100 million. So there's at that temperature, the atoms just get sort of, they lose all their inhibitions and they start acting like liberals.
Yeah, and who can blame them?
Yeah. They start having their sort of inhibitions completely released, and then you confine this. You make a lot of this. So the welder makes a very little bit and just enough to melt iron and sort of weld whatever is welding. This thing becomes, they create a lot more of this gas. And once that is created, they try to pack it together because plasma is now electrically conductive, because all the electrons are stripped away. All that is left of the gas are the nuclei. And without the electrons, the nuclei are charged, right? It's like when your wife goes to her Mica for the holidays, and suddenly you got all kinds of undesirable friends milling around at home. That kind of stuff happens. And a magnetic field is placed, which pushes them really close together. And when that happens, they sort of repel, because they're all same charge, they sort of repel each other. That is electrostatic repulsion. But once that is overcome, the magnetic field is strong enough to make the individual atoms overcome that repulsion. They get in, they fuse together. And when that happens, there's a very tiny bit of mass that converts into electricity because Einstein said so. One fine morning, Einstein figured out E is equal to mc square, and it works, and it releases a great amount of heat.
Right.
Now, this is all in theory, and in practice, it was first achieved inside a nuclear bomb. So what they did was they made an atom bomb, a nuclear bomb, and they figured that when the explosion happened, if they kept hydrogen in the center, as it exploded, it would just compress the hydrogen, physically, and that would cause a fusion reaction. So that is what is called an H bomb. Okay. So they did that. A nuclear explosion was orchestrated in order to compress the hydrogen even closer to each other, hydrogen atoms. And when those fused, the explosion was 10x bigger than the nuclear explosion. Right. So technically, that's a killer bomb, even compared to the one they exploded at Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Right. So hydrogen fuses together to form helium.
Form helium. Yeah. So that's what happens in the sun and all the stars. And that's how it happened. So when the universe began and it was just hydrogen, and slowly gravity made everything come together. And where there was a very large cluster, and we're talking like several billion kilometers long cluster, eventually they would start coming closer because of gravity. And once a certain critical gravity was reached, they would come even closer and even closer. It just started spiraling. And once a threshold was crossed, it started fusing. And that's why stars are bright. And that's why they give off energy and light. And there is a really lot of hydrogen in them. So they're going to keep going on for another 11 billion years, some such crazy.
Yeah.
So these guys, they decided, and when I mean these guys, I mean those scientists who are getting hydrogen atoms to behave in all those undesirable ways. what they think is that if they're able to sustain a reaction like this, they could have a mini sun right here. And the product of this is helium, which is unlike, so when we use nuclear power to create electricity, to have a power plant, the products are harmful. They are heavy metals, which are very radioactive, and it's very difficult. It's very serious if they get out, they leach out into the environment. So the spent fuel has to be sequestered and put inside all kinds of concrete blocks and things like that and stored away. It is dangerous. But fusion reaction, it is not. Helium is an inert gas, and as you know, inert means it wouldn't hurt anyone. It wouldn't hurt a fly. So they would have, and you would have free energy for literally forever. That's the holy grail of fusion reactions.
Yeah.
But it is difficult. First of all, it's very difficult to clump all the hydrogen atoms together that closely. So the Tokamak reactor is a Russian design, which was sort of dreamt up in the 50s, developed in the 60s or 70s, and then because it's so difficult, as I'll just explain, it took forever to get to this stage. It took nearly 3 or 4 decades. So it started in Russia, and what it does is it uses a very strong really, really strong magnetic field to keep the molten plasma in the shape of a torus. You know what a torus is? A donut shape.
Yeah.
So it makes that into a donut shape. And once the donut things gets going, it increases the magnetic field and gets the donut tighter and tighter. That's basically how the torus works. And once that starts happening, at some point of time, the fusion kicks in. So at this time, the plasma, when it's initiated, is it's in the temperature range of tens of thousands of degrees. But once the fusion kicks in, it really increases.
Right.
And these are called confinement devices, basically. So if everything goes well, the fusion reaction starts. And the good part of it is, if it fails and the plasma disperses, the fusion stops immediately. So unlike, because in order to have fusion, you really need to push these things together. So if anything happens, if things explodes, bursts, if there's a failure, it's not dangerous, unlike the Fukushima or the Chernobyl thing, where it spewed out radioactive material and became dangerous. So I'm sure it's still as clear as mud why it happens and why it's. But being simplified, we will soldier on and try to simplify.
Why is it difficult to sustain again?
What happens is, in order to have those really strong magnetic fields, you need to have very high currents, and if you have very high currents, you're going to lose everything in I square R losses. It's like your conductors are going to get hot, and the only way you can keep very high currents going in conductors without heating up is use superconducting. And the problem is, with the current state of technology, superconducting can happen only at very low temperature. So it's less than 220 or 230 minus. That's it's colder than liquid nitrogen, colder than liquid. So it's very, very, very cold. And superconducting, you have like really hundreds of thousands of amperes running around it. They've created really powerful magnetic fields. The other problem about magnetic fields is their strength, it diminishes as the square of the distance. So you can't have the magnetic electromagnet very far away and have your still force the hydrogen, the plasma together. So when it starts becoming hot, the superconducting, the apparatus it finds it harder and harder to keep those sub-zero temperatures going. And at some point, the superconducting stops. Right. So what they're trying to do is so there are different ways. So one is magnetic. There is another one called inertial, an inertial compression. What they do is they have two high energy beams of plasma which go together, and since they are the same size and going in the same direction, they get attracted to each other, and somewhere in the middle, they sort of pinch into each other, and then that causes the fusion reaction. So there you don't need a magnetic field, so you don't have to worry about the problem I said. But even that is not successful. This technology has been successful in creating fusion. So other people have done it too. China did it. China achieved the Chinese reactor achieved a temperature of 150 million degrees.
Wow. Okay.
For a much smaller duration. So that is one challenge, is to keep start the reaction and keep it going. That's one challenge. The second challenge is to get energy out of it. So the whole thing. So when we have our nuclear reactors with uranium, when the mass starts getting hot, it heats up water, and water gets converted to steam, and steam runs the turbine, and that's how we get useful electric power out of it. In a fusion reaction, that's difficult because in a nuclear reactor, your temperatures are far lower. In fusion, how do you put a pipeline, and how do you pipe water? And it's really ridiculously hot.
Right.
So they've got some, which I didn't understand, frankly, is they've got some way of getting helium out and sort of transferring heat with something else, and transferring it to molten heat. It does an elaborate setup. The thing is, none of it has ever worked yet, because they haven't managed to get the fusion going for long enough. So they haven't been able. So they've got plans of increasing this 20 seconds to 300 seconds in the next 5 years. So,
wow, 5 years.
Yeah, it's like how you plan to increase your breath by managing to hold it 1 second more every day. So 5 years later, you'll be able to hold your breath for 300 seconds. You'll be probably able to hold it for 300 seconds, but I don't know whether the fusion reaction will keep going for that long. Right. So, but they do believe, a lot of people do believe that it is possible. There are, you really need to throw money at it. Right now, people haven't been throwing money at it much. So there is one called ITER, which is a conglomeration of 110 countries, so including India.
Wow. Okay.
So the international something, I forgot what it's called. International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. That's what it's called. So it's even bigger than the K-Star, and it's the most ambitious attempt to harness the energy. It's a $25 billion project, and it's in France. So a lot of the $25 billion is probably also all the truffle lunches and all the sliced salmon, those kind of things. So, but whatever's left over, they're doing fusion with that, and it's a joint project of the European Union, and India is also part of it. And its ultimate goal is to do what no fusion experiment has done before, which is to produce more heat than it consumes. So that's the other thing, more energy actually than it consumes. Most of these projects, they've been sort of pumping in a lot more energy to keep these superconductors going. And the energy that's been generated inside, though it's 100 million degrees, it's in a very small core. So the energy is not nearly enough this is about several orders of magnitude higher, the energy that you need to spend in order to get the fusion going. And so that's the state of things. And Simblified strongly advises to keep paying your electricity bills, because we are not going to get free energy anytime, like this year at least. So,
yeah. But it's likely to bear fruit at some point. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, about 2065, you and I will be hopefully hobbling around with walking sticks and still running Simplified, hopefully at that time. And we'll have the unique opportunity of pointing out to episode 100 and something and say, I told you so.
But nuclear energy has gone down in popularity now, right? Or have there been?
Yeah, it actually it got a bad rap from the environmentalists, but a lot of people feel that it's actually the best, our best bet at the moment, because renewable energy has its own problems. Fossil energy is not good at all.
Yeah.
And renewable energy, the problems are you don't get a uniform level. Like if you have a solar energy, you don't get energy at night. If it's wind, you don't get continuous energy. So you need gas turbine power plants to back them up all the time. So they need to be there to balance it. So it's not environmentally friendly. And you can't, those are basically insurmountable problems. So there's no way you can have batteries to store solar, things like that, but all of those are not environmentally friendly. So in order to make a solar cell or a lithium ion battery, you do a lot of environmentally unfriendly things to begin with. So it's not a great idea. Nuclear fuel, if you look at it, is the best because it doesn't pollute. There is absolute only thing you have to worry about is the nuclear waste. It's a small matter of yeah. And so there's a small body of small voice, a small body of people who say that maybe nuclear is the way to go. And Fukushima and Chernobyl, notwithstanding, the current state of safety and security is much better. Nothing will happen. Things like that. But that popular opinion against it. You might remember we had this Kalpakam phase 2 reactor. And so everyone is very enthusiastically for nuclear energy, but they don't want it where they are living. So that's the Kalpakam guys are saying, why don't you do it in Bombay? Why don't you do it in Malad?
Yeah.
And the Malad guys are saying, no, let's do it somewhere else. Yeah. So that's about it from me. It's a big, broad overview of fusion and how it's possible and not possible at the same time. So
going to K-Star Mall looks more likely than getting energy in the next 5 years. Hopefully by then we'll be back in malls and all.
Actually, things are pretty. I went the other day to a mall. And it was pretty, well visited. I was surprised. I went to the mall for a very specific thing. I wanted to buy something. I knew the shop was open there. Yeah. I went. I didn't expect to see that many people.
That's true.
And it was, so it is.
Popular opinion is that Corona is over.
It's gone. Nobody thinks Corona is around. It's scary.
First of all, it was COVID-19. We are already in 2021. It is over.
So, it's been good having the first episode of 2021 out. First, we recorded it in 2021. So that's good. That means that 2021 is still around. Everything is fine and hope things get better for all of you out there. And, stay safe, stay fused, and stay simplified. And see you guys around next week.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed that show. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So everybody, please do help us out with our survey if you haven't filled it out yet. It's on ivmpodcast.com/survey. This survey is really helpful for us. And, fill out the survey completely and we'll put you into a lucky draw and we will send you some IVM swag. And what a great week of episodes we had, and what an eventful week we had. Let me run through some of the episode highlights really quickly. On Paisa Vaisa, Samir Nair of Applause Entertainment was on to discuss the web series Scam 1992. Great conversation with Anupam was had. Do check that out. Bhavish Somaya of Hasbro was on Advertising is Dead. On Positively Unlimited, Chitna is starting a new series from A to Z. This week, Align. Do check that out. And on GBCD, Farhad and Sunetra asked the question, what if they were straight? Interesting conversation. Definitely do check that out. I think you'll enjoy that. And one piece of news for you guys. Cyrus Says is now live on YouTube every weekday at 10 a.m. If you go to our IVM Podcast YouTube channel, you'll be able to catch us over there. And stay tuned for a lot more video content coming out in the next couple of weeks. And with that, I hope to see you again next week.
Hey, I'm Zarina, your peak performance coach, leadership coach, and life coach. And I'm here to unleash that power within you with your weekly dose of mantras and empowerment. Tune in to Monday Mantras every Monday for your quick fix, and the Empowering Series with Zarina Poonawalla every Thursday for riveting real-life stories. You can catch us on the IBM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.